Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females need you just to trick me, trick me, trick me, trick me.
Hi, if you are seeing this, it means my book, Everything Was Here But You, is out now. This book touches on love, loss, grief, and the weird feeling that something is missing when you're building your beautiful, big, accomplished dream life. Check it out now. I'm sure you will find something in this book that you can relate to, and I hope it feels like a huge hug. You can get it now on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. Hey everyone, today I'm welcomed to join a very amazing guest. Hi Danielle, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you? Thanks for having me on your fabulous podcast.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you for the kind words about it. I mean, two blonde authors on one podcast, that's going to be iconic. I'm ready.
Iconic.
So, do you want to introduce yourself before we get started? You're so amazing, but everyone else needs to know why.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I've spent a life full of rooted in transformation. I started in the entertainment PR world at Miramax Films a long time ago, and I traded red carpets for red wine, and I ended up making a big career shift, which was, the first kind of life lesson for me. I took a career shift and moved into the wine and spirits industry where I've been working for over 21 years. So, spoiler alert, I'm older than 21. And I've been doing that for over 21 years. Currently with Moet Hennessy, I've been there for nearly 12 years. And at the end of last year, I published my first book, A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting, the Fine Art of Wine and Wine Management, which is a tongue-in-cheek humor book, written like a children's rhyming illustrated book, but definitely not made for kids, as it parallels wine terminology to raising kids to be good human beings.
I love that. And what I think is so cool is you were able to take a situation that you can't really relate to because you're not a parent, but you can really write about, the experience of parenting through the lens of someone else. And I think the best writers can truly do that. I think that's so amazing. So kudos to you on that note. But I do want to ask you, like, what was the process of writing your book? Like, how did you know that you wanted to write a book about that? And how did it feel when you finally got it out into the world?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, yes, like I'm not a mom or, I'm not a parent, except, to my dog.
Same. I think it might stay that way. I don't know. I'm young though. I don't know. I have time.
But I always say too, you don't need to be a parent to know good human behavior in human beings, right? To know basic manners of, being kind and not talking back and not being a bully. But this really came about I wrote this about 13 years ago or 14 years ago now. So it came about in like a bunch of things. There was a relationship pivot going on. I'm a very involved aunt in my niece and nephew's lives. I am aunt to so many of my friends' kids, but I was also a bonus mom to my ex-fiance's kids for many, many years. And I had wanted kids on my own. And it just became apparent that my ex really didn't want any more kids. And so I ended up breaking off the engagement. So really, I kind of channeled that nurturing because I say, just because you're not a mother, it doesn't mean the nurturing goes away. And so I channeled that nurturing into this creative process, just thinking about how I can sort of give back to, and still affect kids today to grow up to be good humans. And so this all came about, and I was watching my niece and nephew, and they were younger then. And like most kids, they have the propensity to whine, although great kids, everybody has the propensity to whine. And they were whining about something, and I said, "No, Auntie Danielle drinks wine. She doesn't listen to wine." So all the kind of wheels, started to
Oh,
turn in my head, and the everything all came together because I was like, you know what, this is really fun. This is sort of channeling my nurturing motherhood into a project. It's also my passion, not only working in the wine industry, but I love wine. So coming up with this sort of fun, creative way of just, an homage to parents, with just a different lens of light, empathy, and compassion.
I love that. And I love that you said like a good human knows good human behavior because it's so true. Like I don't know. I honestly think my mom, growing up, she always used to say, like, when you go out into the world, you're a representation of me. And I think that lesson really sticks with you when you become an adult because you just want to be a good person and then you can inspire others to be a good person. So you don't have to be a parent to understand what that's like. And I really love that you pointed that out. What's your favorite kind of wine? And are you a wine and cheese girl or a wine and chocolate girl? I need to know.
Oh God, well, favorite kind of wine, that's tough because I guess it depends on my mood, right? I drink a lot, especially in the summer, and I live in Los Angeles. It's like 75 degrees today. So I'm probably gonna go have a nice glass of Chablis. I love a white, like a Sancerre, Sauvignon Blanc, a Chablis. But if I'm gonna sit down and have like a hearty meal, like a nice steak, I definitely love a bold Cabernet. But wine and cheese or wine and chocolate, I'm gonna say both. I am a huge wine and cheese lover. I love cheese. I love a good cheese and charcuterie plate, but I have so much candy and chocolate in my house. I have such a sweet tooth. So actually, I mean, if I'm gonna have the best pairing, it would be the wine with the cheese, but then later on I'll have chocolate.
I love that so much. I just like you gotta have both. You gotta have sweet, you gotta have savory, you gotta have some good wine to like wash it all down. I mean,
Absolutely.
especially crackers, like crackers, wine, cheese, like what's better than that? I just love carbs.
I I could live on like a cheese and charcuterie plate with a bottle of wine. Like that is my total food groups right there.
I love that. So you mentioned a little bit earlier, your life took some unexpected detours, ending an engagement, leaving entertainment, becoming, not a parent per se, but becoming a figure of a parent. How did you know it was time for you to like navigate towards a different path? And what really made you realize you wanted that change?
So I think, when I made that first career pivot, I was younger then, a lot younger. I was late 20s. I didn't have a family. I didn't own property. So I didn't have a huge burden or responsibilities on me. So some of it could have been just being young and naive. But when I left, I moved to LA from New York because I just always wanted to move to LA. And so while I loved being at Miramax Films for over 6 years, and it was fantastic time in my 20s, living in New York, traveling the world, I'm just very independent. And I said, you know what, I'm moving to LA and that's it. So, I had that confidence instilled and built in me. But when I got out here, it was really just sort of the first big life lesson to me. I worked for a personal PR firm, so representing the talent directly. And I kind of just I knew going into it that that wasn't the path I wanted to be on, but I just wanted to get to LA. There were no studio jobs. And within the first 3 months, I mean, the company I worked for, it was a little bit of a toxic environment. And I just had this feeling in just 3 months' time, in all my time at Miramax, there was, of course, there's days you're like went out clubbing the night before, or you're just weren't in the mood to work and you're just like, oh, I don't want to go to work. There was never that pit in my stomach. And when I was at this PR firm, in the short span of 3 months, I had that pit, that angst in my stomach of like, I really just don't want to go into work. And I hated that feeling. I mean, it was the worst feeling. And that was really the first initial defining moment for me. Like, it's hard. We don't always get to choose what we want to do in life, right? And, obviously we need to take care of ourselves and have a roof over our heads. But we spend most of our time at work, and I just like had this angst and this pit in my stomach that like this is the worst feeling, and I don't ever want to live like this. And so I left without having another job, which is very unlike me because I'm type A. But again, there's that where that naivety comes in, maybe just being young. And I ended up falling into this job that I thought would be temporary. And now I've built, a 21 plus year career in wine and spirits. So, that really was defining moment for me to show me that, life doesn't always go as planned. And, I continue to build that confidence in myself that like, there's not one yellow brick road that takes you all the way to Oz. And so maybe when you're stepping off one path and onto another, you should just embrace that pivot because it can take you on another journey that maybe you were meant to be on the entire way. And that's kind of now been my defining moment for when I did have the career, the career shift, then I did have the relationship, just knowing that like, I'm going to be okay, and that's the most important thing is not living, one other thing I want to say is because that feeling I had in my stomach at that job, I knew I never wanted to have that feeling again. And when I started to have that in the relationship with the fiance, it
You're like, no,
wasn't just
heck no,
about,
I don't want it.
yeah, it wasn't just about him not wanting kids. Trust me, there were other things, but I started to get that feeling again. I'm like, this is the worst feeling, feeling lonely in a relationship. That like I was so empowered to, that's when like I just felt empowered to walk away knowing I've done it before, I'll do it again. My personal happiness, my mind, my well-being is the most important thing, and that's going to bring me happiness and joy.
No, and I think like it's scary, but like women are so intuitive and we know when a job's not right for us. We know when a person's not right for us. We know when a situation's not right for us. And I think it's sadder to say you stayed in something that made you not happy than to just leave and do the scary thing and not know what comes next because you can't find the thing you're looking for in the wrong room. You have to leave the room,
Absolutely.
find the right thing.
Yeah. When you're in the wrong room, it can be debilitating, right? And it could just, it could be debilitating to you mentally, physically. You just, I mean, it can have so many bad ramifications, and it's impeding you from going out there and finding your true journey that you're meant to be on.
Exactly. And it's like, why are you going to hold yourself back? I know millions of people who could do that. They could hold me back, whatever. That's not who I want in my life. I don't want those people dictating my career, my relationships. I always tell people that are like mean to me, I'm like, if I want someone to be mean to me, I have a whole list of people that I have blocked I could have called. You're not gonna hold me back. No one's gonna hold me back from what I want. But again, I just think that's so badass of you because so many people convince themselves they have to stay in a job because of money, because of whatever it might be. And I don't think you should have a job forever that you don't love. I think you should love what you do. And I love that you found something that you love to do. So, and you're amazing at
Yeah. And I think, look, of course, it can be very scary for people, right? The thought of jumping out of a safety net, that they have this job, and it can be scary, but the pivot is the point. It's, I think of it that the pivot in life is it's about finding your happiness. The pivot isn't a detour, it's the curriculum. And when you kind of let it guide you, you can find such greater happiness. I mean, again, it's like, I thought my path was motherhood and marriage and all that. And I've just been on this other journey that has been so rewarding and so fulfilling. I'm sure if I had gone down that path, it would have been, hopefully, but you don't know unless you give yourself the confidence to believe that you can do it. And like I just believe we live one life, right? Like let's do with it what we can, in this short amount of time that's going to bring us joy and happiness. And if something's not serving us, that's no way to live.
exactly. That is no way to live. I couldn't agree more. I want that on a shirt now. When when you look back at your younger self, what version of life did you really think you would be living now? Was it that typical timeline that you just shared?
Yeah, absolutely. I really thought I was going to just, all my friends were starting to get married at 29. And that's when I was like, nope, first I want to pit stop and move to LA first. But then for sure, I thought I was going to be married, have kids, maybe or maybe not. I would have continued on a career. Yeah, I thought I was going to do the timeline, but I love more and more now, like younger generations are, people are choosing different paths and not, they're bucking the traditional quote unquote norms, or what was perceived once as norms, and going about it with different timelines or different paths and different journeys. And yeah,
No, it's so true. Again, like it's really cool to see like some untraditional paths. I mean, my past very untraditional, and I'm proud of that because I wouldn't be where I am if it didn't happen the way it did. And I think we all need to find our own box and let the box expand instead of fitting into some traditional mold that no one wants to follow anymore. That's from like the 1900s of cooking and cleaning and babies and all this stuff. Because you know what? Like women are girl bosses. We're meant to be in the business world. We're meant to be in the STEM world, period.
absolutely. And you know what? Confidence doesn't come from never failing. It comes from not knowing, or it comes from knowing that you can't stand back up and that you can't choose again. And, confidence comes from trying and, continuing to build that arsenal of, knowing that you are a girl boss, knowing
Right?
you can do it.
I mean, we might cry, we might need a coffee or some wine, and then we'll get back up and we'll do it again. We'll start over. We'll find a new relationship that's more aligned. You know what? Like we did it once more, we'll do it again.
Absolutely. And I say with breaking up with my fiance, when I broke up with him, I remember that first night in my new apartment, one of the things, like he was just always somebody like chasing the party and always like had to stay till the bitter end, right? And that was just One of the things I was like, when I was at my first night in my new apartment, I remember I like met some friends for wine down the street and it was like, I don't know, 9:30, 10. I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm actually going home. And I remember laying in my bed and I was like, huh, I did what I wanted to do. I was tired. I came home and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And I never cried another day after leaving that relationship. But then when I had my next relationship, my last long-term boyfriend, there were some things. His drinking was getting a little out of control. And because I just had the confidence to know that, like, I walked away of the last relationship and I was so much happier when I did, it gave me the confidence to, even though there was a lot of love there, to know it was time that, to walk away from the latest relationship.
And that can be hard, but again, you have to really listen to yourself and leave if it's not aligned.
Yeah,
Because it's
absolutely.
more painful to stay in something that's not aligned than to leave and find something better and work on yourself and build something for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I always say it's better to be alone. And that's the thing, you have to love yourself, right? You have to love, and I do. I'm very comfortable in myself. I'm very comfortable in my space. I have a great network of friends. I'd rather be doing this on my own than in the wrong thing.
Exactly, absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes when you're ready and like more aligned with yourself, then you'll find something that's more aligned with you. You gotta sometimes love yourself first and build something for yourself, and then you'll attract the right energy. That's what I believe. I don't know.
No, I mean, I believe the same thing, but I also believe too, now that I see people are getting married later or choosing not to get married, I think that if it happens for me, I don't even know if I need to get actually married, but if I have another partner in life, I always kind of thought it would happen later anyway, because, the thing is, when you're in your 20s, I look back at my 20s, like sorry, can I say that?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
crap I,
girl. Come on.
the shit I put up with in my 20s was like not cute, and it's like you just, you know, I would never put up with it now. And I just realized like I had no idea who I was back then. And that's why a lot of people that get married young also divorce, because it's very hard for two people to grow up together and be on the exact same linear path. It's very hard to, know who you are in your 20s, and to grow collectively together. I mean, that's why I think, if I meet somebody later in life, it's like I know exactly who I am, they know who they are, and we're coming together because it's the match, and we make sense together. We're not trying to fit.
Truly, and love never expires either, which is really beautiful. I always say time goes on either way, so why not do what you can with it, and then the rest will turn out the way it needs to turn out.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people feel pressured to follow that traditional timeline. How do you think we emotionally deal with the moment we realize our life might not follow that typical checklist?
I think, like I said, I think it takes a lot of internal reflection, right? And you have to have discernment and self-trust and patience, to really just, think about what it is you want. I think some people get so caught up in the weeds about what it's supposed to be, but every transition gives you information, and what matters is whether you use it or not. And what matters is, as long as you look at it and take the lesson forward, then nothing's wasted. So, if you thought you were on one path and you veered off course onto another, the best thing you can do is just think about, why did that happen and what made me happy about it, and how can I embrace this next part? Because it's about extracting the lesson from it. That's the most important thing.
It really is. It really, really is. And I think sometimes the best timelines are the ones we build ourselves. And when you stop comparing yourself to others, because, if someone's not wearing the same shoes as you, they're not going to go where you're going. And, don't listen to them. Don't follow what they're doing because you're on a different journey. And that's okay.
Yeah, and you know what I mean. These days and this day and age with all the social media, right? Like, people are going to post the great stuff, but we never know what's really going behind, on behind closed doors. And it's easy to compare yourself to what other people have, but it's so deadly. It's so dangerous to do that, because you don't really know what's really going on. And just because somebody has those fancy shoes, like you said, that doesn't mean it's going to make you happy. It doesn't mean that you're going to walk high in those high heels. You've got to find the pair that fits you.
No, it's so true. And like, what makes me happy is being a kind person and just like spreading kindness and knowing I'm helping people with what I do. I think that's truly like what's the best. You have to find something that gives you purpose, gives you intention, instead of finding something else that, maybe is on the surface level and just looks pretty. Because you're right, like, there's a reason why we get to choose the photos on Instagram we post. No one
Right.
gets to sit there posting the ones where their acne showing and their shoes are dirty or their hair's a mess and they're sick in bed or crying over a guy or something. Like, no one's going to post that. I mean, we should. We
Right.
should be a little bit authentic and vulnerable. And definitely try
Yeah.
to. But it's like, no one's going to post that. And when we realize that, it's like, no one's life is perfect. We're going to only show the pretty things and not the shitty things. So
Yeah,
you need
exactly.
to just like remind yourself of that. I need that on a phone case or a shirt.
I love that.
Oh my God. So, what kind of helped you move from the off track of like, okay, you know what? I'm going somewhere else and that's okay. Did you have like comparison thoughts and, oh my God, all these people that I know are here and I'm on a new path? Or were you kind of like, I got this. I know what I want to do. I don't care.
I mean, a little bit of both, right? I think, the initial move from New York to LA was like, gave me that confidence to know like I can pick up and move and, I'll be fine. And I did it. And then, the career shift, again, that gave me the confidence to know like you got this, Danielle, like you can do whatever you put your mind to. But I think, I think a lot of it is just also like I do a lot of internal reflection and writing is always like my creative outlet too. And I always like writing down and thinking about like all the good that has happened, right? Like motherhood didn't happen for me, but I've now embarked on like not only do I travel a lot for career, but I travel all the time personally because I'm like you. I'm all about just wanting to bring kindness into the world. I want to learn about every, culture and I want to see the world and I want to experience everything in life. So I've created this new fulfilled life of, planning my next trip. That's something I potentially couldn't do if I was married with kids. So I've started to lean into, looking at like, what are all these things that are bringing me joy now? I have a network of friends here that are all, most of them are single without kids too. And, when you build up your network and you build up the confidence to know, like, whatever pushed you into change, usually carries the exact insight you need to move forward into something better. And as long as you're I think, looking internally and reflecting about it and seeing the good on what that path is, right? Not wallowing in the past, but seeing what this next chapter of your story is going to reveal to you by this new path you're on.
I love that so much. Okay, let's play a game. You ready? If emotions had wine pairings, what would a heartbreak pair with?
Oh, heartbreak would pair with, I'd probably say a bold Cabernet, right? It's a bold feeling. You feel so deep and heavy, and that's what a Cabernet is, deep and heavy.
What about the I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyways phase of life? What wine would we give that category?
I would say champagne, something bubbly, right? Just effervescence and just feel with excitement and just dive right into it.
I love that. What about the life didn't go how I planned, but I'm okay phase? What wine are we giving or beverage?
Didn't go as planned, but um, I'd say a Riesling, right? It's sometimes unexpected, sometimes can have a little effervescence. And so, it's unexpected that, your path didn't happen, but it came out a little bubbly on top.
I love that. What is the most underrated life lesson wine culture has taught you?
Patience, right? I mean, there's so many, I mean, a bunch of things, right? Patience and it's what's inside the bottle. So, patience, it can take years and years and years for the wine you're drinking to come to fruition. It's, the length of time the grapes are on the vines and the harvest and the aging. There's also vintages. Everything takes curation and wines all come out differently. It's all about the care and, how much you foster putting into it, just like with people, it takes time. And we all come out differently. But then I think also, the other thing, what did I say? I said the vintages and There was something else. Oh my God. It'll come to me.
Oh well.
But yeah, the patience and the vintage for sure. And just that we're all different. Yeah. I mean, we're all different, but we all have the capacity to be a beautiful bottle of wine. Oh, the other one I said is about, you can't judge by the labels, right? Everybody can put on a fantastic label that's eye-catching, but it's really what's inside the bottle. It's what's, put into the nurturing of, again, the grapes and the fermentation and the blending and all that. So what you see on the bottle might not reflect what's inside, just as what we see in people and what we see on social media.
Is that what you often kind of realized within the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean that was, I was dealing with a lot of personalities, and that's why also when I moved to personal PR, like no disrespect for people that do personal PR, it's not for me. I'm not a yes man, and like you have your clients' lives are at the forefront of your life, and that's not like my life. I want to be front and center of my life and not worry about somebody's. And you're dealing with a lot of strong personalities, and that's just, yeah, that's you're dealing with a lot of bold reds when you're dealing with
Well,
talent, and that just wasn't the avenue I wanted to continue on.
I couldn't even imagine even living in LA. I'm sure you like run into people all the time and you're just trying to get coffee and you're like, what the heck?
Well, luckily I live by the beach in Santa Monica. It's lovely, and so you don't see a lot of people. But there's a lot of great. I mean, when I traveled in Miramax, we traveled with a lot of talent, and a lot of them are fantastic. So they're not all bad, but yeah, didn't want to continue on that path though.
Who's your favorite celebrity you've ever met?
Oh, I mean, I'll tell you, I don't ask me any of the bad ones because I don't want to call anybody out, but I'll
None.
tell you some of the great ones. I worked with Samuel L. Jackson was the best, Jude Law, Matt Damon, um, Meryl Streep, I got to meet. Yeah, I mean, yeah, those were all fantastic people.
And it's really cool to realize like they're just like us. We all put our pants on the same way and they drink wine at home and get upset and get sad. And I think that really goes back to what you said. Like people often don't show the bad side on the surface, but we're all people at the end of the day. And we need to remember that when we go into a job or go out into the world or, you know, just talk to people. You need to remember we're all human. We all deal with something. Be kind because don't make a harder situation worse for someone.
Absolutely. And that's a big, point of why I left the entertainment industry too, is because I just felt like, we revere people we put people on such a pedestal, and it doesn't make anybody better than you or I or, anybody. And I just, I didn't want to contribute to like, in a role where I had to cater to someone where it's like, we're all the same people. And, again, and even the reality stars or even just somebody you catch on social media, it's easy to think their life is so great, as we said, but just remember, like, yeah, they're just like all of us.
They really are. Okay, back to your book. Do you want, I know you said you wanted to read a little piece from it. If you want to do that right now, I would love to hear it.
I
I want to
I
learn
would love to.
the vibes. Come on.
Yeah, I would love to read a chapter. So, as I said, like each chapter, it's written like a children's book. Every time I use wine terminology, I give the definition at the bottom. So, this book is really made for not only parents or aunts, uncles, grandparents, but even if you're just a wine lover or love a good humor book, it's really for anybody. So, this chapter is called You Don't Want Your Kids to Ferment. So, the fermentation process, just so you know, in wine is when you turn sugar into alcohol. So, if we think of sugar as something sweet, alcohol is something harsh. So this is about teaching your kids manners so they don't turn it into something harsh. Manners, manners, manners are the key to it all. These lessons need to start even when they're small. Teach them this from day one before they start to crawl. You don't want your kid to be the sour grape in the bunch and turn into a spoiled brat that kids want to punch. When they start talking, make sure they know thank you and please, and to always say bless you when they hear someone sneeze. Please and thank you are an absolute must. Without that, your child's a total bust. There's nothing worse than a child who has behavior that is crude, because it'll continue as they're older and become someone who's rude. People don't take kindly to and aren't nice to those with attitude, because it's very off-putting and puts others in a bad mood, oftentimes causing confrontation and leads to a nasty feud. Wanting to put a little bit of poison in your child's food. Is that really how you want your kids to be viewed? Wouldn't you prefer that there's someone who's wooed? Without manners, they'll ferment and turn into someone harsh and biting. They may turn into a kid who's rude, obnoxious, and always fighting. So teach your kids some manners and to have some heart and soul. Without that, your kid may well turn into an a-hole.
I love that. Oh my God, that is so funny. No, and it's so true because a lot of people don't realize, like, I'll never forget someone told me they're like, oh, my 17-year-old son, he's a lost cause. And I'm like, please, lady, fix him now. You have time. Like, make him someone good for, his future love interest or his future employer or just people around him because it's like you can truly start young, you can prevent it. And like that kid's gonna be a man, someone that this girl's singing Man Child by Sabrina Carpenter about. Like, please.
I know that's a shame for parents to say that, but yeah, that's why this book is, also it's written like a children's book. So hopefully it's when they're younger, start them when they're young. We got to teach them these
I'm
manners
begging.
because man, you don't want to be that 17-year-old that your mom says is a lost cause.
No, that's so embarrassing. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. She has time. She has time.
Yeah.
She could turn it around. She just needs to buy your book. I should go track her.
Other-
Be like, hey girl,
Otherwise, he's going to have a rude awakening as he gets, in the workplace and in social situations. It's only going to get worse for this
I'm
guy.
kind of girlfriend like that. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's so true. I mean, like life tends to humble you, right? Like, is that something that you've realized? Like, if you don't learn the lesson, I think the lesson starts to show up until you learn it. Something I was telling like one of my friends actually, and it's funny because like I'm a yapper, I do this. So of course people are like, Rylan, give me advice. And I'm like, okay, I'll use my emotional intelligence. But it's like we often try to avoid the things we're scared of, and then the things that we're scared of tend to follow us until we, end up facing them. And I think it's really interesting how that applies in all aspects of life. If you don't fix the root problem, which really starts with you, but we all want to blame someone else and avoid it
Hmm.
because we can't look into the mirror and realize, oh crap, I have to fix me. The same thing is going to haunt you. And I'm just like, yeah, you got to work on yourself and you got to fix the issues before you see them in your job or in your relationships and in your life.
Yeah. Sometimes the things that scare you the most are the things that give you the greatest life lessons for sure.
Really. And I love that your journey kind of has showed that. Like, yeah, it's scary. And I'm sure like you didn't know what the heck you wanted to do for a little bit. And then you found something that you really loved. And it really shows you like nothing good comes easy.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to work
Want to
for it.
keep
And
you
like I
that
said, sometimes when you take that next leap, it shows you the path that you were maybe meant to be on all along.
truly. And you know what? Like you got to keep going. I mean, it's not going to come if you don't keep putting in the work. So
Yeah.
thank you for being you. I need to get your book. I need you to sign. I'll just have to come to LA. You can sign it for me.
Please do come to LA. Let me take you out.
Get coffee
Absolutely.
or wine. I'm 19 though, so soon.
Okay, soon enough. When you turn 21, come out to LA and I'll take you to all my favorite wine bars.
Yay, that'd be so much fun. Okay, to wrap this up, what does success mean to you now compared to earlier in your life?
Success to me is just personal happiness and achievement, right? Every time I do something that makes me feel empowered and happy with, who I am as a person. I mean, that's ultimately success for me is being a good person and being true to myself. Because when I found that just being a kind person and being true to yourself, all the rest seems to follow. It really helps guide the path that you're on and has really brought me such, I mean, I really, I like to be reflected and I have thought about it quite a bit. Like, I'm just so proud of the life I've lived and created for myself. And that's been the greatest success is because it's not, I can't pinpoint one thing because published my book or because of my career. It's because I've created this life that I'm so proud of and so happy. And I've created this person that I am who's really kind and gives back. And it just makes me feel truly successful for who I've become.
And that's what I love about just like being so rooted in yourself because it's like no matter what leaves, what falls apart, you have something that won't go anywhere because it's built by you and that's your career. That's who you are as a person. If someone wants to end a relationship with you, okay, bye. Like I still have me, I still have all these things. And I think just knowing that is so beautiful because when you're rooted in yourself, you don't need anyone else. And if someone leaves, you still have yourself. So I love it.
Absolutely. And it's you that you have to look at in the mirror. So you have to truly love yourself and be proud of who you've become.
No, it's so beyond true. If someone listening right now feels lost, what is one thing you want them to remember?
I just want them to know that embrace the pivot, embrace the messiness, embrace the middle. Bridges are meant to be crossed, right? And sometimes we get stuck in the middle. But it's okay. You can look back at where you started on the bridge, but know you're going to cross it. Know you're going to cross it, and that's the point. And it's the journey across the bridge that is really the most important step.
That's really like important because you know what, like if we're focused on like not where we're going, but just everything around us, you're gonna lose concentration. Like you're not gonna know what's ahead of you, and we don't look at a car when we are driving a car, we don't look backwards. You got to look forward. So I love that so much. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Of course. What is one piece of advice you want people to carry with them after leaving this conversation?
I just think, I mean, I just always try and instill like just be a goddamn good human being. Like
Please, guys.
that's,
We're begging.
we need that more than ever these days. It's so upsetting to see all the shit going on right now and, we just need to be kind. We need to be kind people and, you know, there's no room for anything else.
So beyond true. It's horrible. You want to open the door for someone, they're like, "You're gonna kill me." No, I'm not. I'm trying to be kind.
Yeah. Yeah,
But you got to leave people better than you found them. That is definitely for sure.
absolutely.
Where can we find you on Instagram, on all the socials? I want to read your book. Where can I get your book? Where can everyone
Uh,
get
the
your
the
book?
book is on Amazon.com and barnesandnoble.com. I have a website, daniellefrankauthor.com, and my Instagram is at create a great story.
Everyone should go do that. Create a great story because we get one life and make it so good you want to publish it.
That's exactly, I actually coined my Instagram not because of my writing, but because I was like, I'm creating a great story that is the story of my life. And Instagram also shows all that, right? All the travel and the wine and the food I'm drinking. So it feels like it's like a diary of my life. And everybody needs to create a great story of their lives.
No, and like when you write something down, it's permanent, or you post something, it's permanent. And that's what I love about it because even if it doesn't last, a person, a situation, you're saying it mattered enough that you're writing about it, you're posting about it, and you're documenting it. And I think that's just truly so beautiful. So I love that so much. Thank you
Thank you.
for joining me. This was so beautiful, so healing, and I truly learned so much about life and just like finding the right path. And I know if I learned all that, my listeners definitely did too. So thank you.
Oh, well, you are adorable. Keep up the great podcast and the great work you're doing. This was so much fun. Thank you for having me on. And I can't wait to take you out in LA when you're 21.
Yep, that's our deal now. I'm gonna hit you up.
Yep,
Like I'm ready.
absolutely.
Thank you for being you. This was truly so much fun, and I can't wait to release this.
Oh, thank you so much.